So, no disclosures with this. This all started back in the RK days. Many of you remember that radial keratotomy, probably the most controversial operation in the history of ophthalmology. And we got interested in it through Rick Villasenor, who was studied under Barricare and was interested in keratomileusis, and then RK came along. So Ron Smith guided us, and he said, we ought to study this a little more scientifically. So we did studies on cadaver eyes, and Ron Smith had a bunch of owl monkeys that he was using for retinal work, and he let us use the anterior segment part of those owl monkeys to do RK incisions. So we published a bunch of stuff, but I was an RK surgeon, and people come in and say, well, doc, if this thing is so great, how come you haven't had it done? So that after a while, that started bugging me. So I had pretty good vision in my right eye, was 20/30 uncorrected, had minimal astigmatism. But my left eye, if you understand the way astigmatic keratotomy works, I was absolutely perfect in my left eye because AK incisions would flatten one meridian while it steepens the other meridian. And that's exactly what I needed because of my refraction. So one day, Rick Villasenor and I had maybe too many margaritas, and we decided we'd operate on each other. But we didn't operate after the margaritas. We waited a week or so. And so I did AK in him, and he did AK in me. And I only needed it in one eye, thank God. So after I had it done, you can see my left eye, plus 150, minus 4, basically. So that's ideal. So we went ahead and did the AK incisions, and I was very conservative. I didn't want to be overcorrected. I said, Rick, I don't want you to flip my axis. So he did 2 AK incisions, and I got a little bit better. And if I would have stopped right there, I wouldn't be giving this lecture. But I decided, let's go for more, because I was better, but I wanted to be even better. So the total of the incisions were 4 arcuates, 2 above and 2 below. And of course, arcuate incisions, they're based on the pachymetry estimate of what it is at the area where you're making the incision. And so they're not precise. The ones we're doing now with femto lasers are more precise because you know how thick the cornea is. But that was my difference map. So I flattened 2.5 diopters and steepened 1, and my vision was actually quite good. I was about 20/30, and for a while I was almost 20/20 uncorrected. So there 5 years post-op, I was plano minus a half at 90. And I thought, wow, this is great. And I walked around with good vision for probably 10 years in that eye. But AK incisions, just like RK incisions, have a progressive effect over time because you actually weaken the cornea by making these incisions. So I gradually started drifting in the opposite direction, and I started to get against the rule of astigmatism. And you can see how bizarre this topography looks, even though my vision was still good at this time. So what happened over about the next 10 years is I kept getting more against the rule of astigmatism, and I ended up almost as much against the rule as I had with the rule when I started. So that's my map up there on the left, and you can see it on the right here. It looks like almost a pellucid marginal degeneration, but it's actually asymmetrical astigmatism from these AK incisions. And my vision was still okay in that I corrected to about 20/30 with a refraction of +2, -275 at about 100. And those are my K readings. So I knew I was going to need cataract surgery eventually, and I knew no one in their right mind would put a toric lens in a cornea that looked like that. So I said, before I have cataract surgery, I want to fix my eye. So I knew David Lynn up in Vancouver, Canada, who's a pioneer in topography-guided PRK and LASIK, because I was his proctor when he got his first Vistix laser. So I went up there and helped him do his first cases. So I sent him this map, and I said, David, can you fix it? He said, oh, yeah, no problem. Come on up. So about a year ago, I went to Vancouver and had him do the procedure on me. And he uses a Schwinn laser, which we're not using in the United States because he likes doing transepithelial PRK. So rather than remove the epithelium manually, the epithelium is removed with a laser, and then he has a special topography for telling you how much to do. So it's obviously pretty tricky if you're, and I told him, I want to have monovision. He said, okay, no problem. He said, we can't make your cornea any steeper than 49 though. And I said, that's fine. What'll I be? He said, oh, about -1.5. Said, that sounds okay. So that was our goal, was to take this cornea and make it smooth. So the laser, basically what it has to do, is one of these a pointer? Anyway, So with topography-guided LASIK, what you want to do is make the whole central cornea steeper. So you want to make the blue-green areas steeper and leave the red areas kind of alone because they were already steeper. And so this is my procedure. And believe me, after having done thousands of laser procedures, you tell the patient, well, you know, when the laser kicks in, you'll hear a noise and you'll get a little ozone odor. Well, that's because you're 2 feet away as the surgeon. When you're the patient and that ozone layer is being sucked in right near your nose, you think you're on fire. And so I was afraid to move. When you see the video, I'll just show a little bit of this video here, but this was shot with my cell phone with one of his technicians because he didn't have a video setup. But when you'll see the enlarged image of my eye, it looks like the eye of a dead person because it's not moving 1/2 a millimeter in any direction. I was just looking at that light. So the longest part of the procedure was about 40 seconds to remove the epithelium. And so you'll see he's pretty good at this, obviously, because he's done many of them. So a little bit you use the fluorescence of the epithelium, which looks different than the fluorescence in the stroma, to tell when you're through the epithelium. And then once you're through the epithelium, you go ahead and do the stromal part of the procedure, which took only about 10 seconds. So it was about 45 seconds for the laser part to remove the epithelium, and then about 10 seconds for the other part. So that's David talking, and he's got quite a setup. David leads a good life. He's a golfer, and he does lots of surgery. So he works 3 weeks, then he goes to his home in Hawaii for 1 week every month, then he comes back and works 3 weeks, he goes to Hawaii for a month, and that's his schedule. So it's a pretty nice lifestyle. You can hear the laser firing away now, and you can see my eye up in that little window there, and it's dead center, not moving 1 second. So that's enough for that. So this is what happened. The first week I was about -4. I said, well, this is great. I'm -4 in one eye and plano in the other eye. But that's typical of hyperopic PRK or LASIK. You have to overcorrect and then you gradually drift back down. And so I gradually got better and better over time. So that was my pre-op map, and that's one of my more recent maps up on the left, and you can see how much different that is. And so I'm about a -1.5 now on this left eye. Now the next part of this story I'll be able to tell you about next year, because Monday Barry Seibel's going to take my cataract out. So I have, like a nutcase, I've got 5 different sets of readings. I've got topography on 5 different instruments. I've got the IOL master. I've got all these readings, and I've sent this to Jack Holliday. I've sent it to Doug Cook. I've sent it to everybody but Kevin Miller, but you might get an email over this weekend, Kevin, and Warren Hill. So everybody has a different idea, but the smartest guy, I think, is Doug Cook, because Jack Holliday, he's a consultant to Pentacam, so he trusts the Pentacam. The Pentacam measures all your astigmatism along with your posterior astigmatism. He said, oh, you need a toric lens. And I said, well, my axis varies 90 degrees. What's the axis? So he's going by the axis on the Pentacam, but all the other instruments say it's somewhere else. So Doug said, I wouldn't touch the astigmatism if I were you. I would just put in a spherical lens, wait 4 to 6 weeks, see if you have any astigmatism left, and then either do nothing if it's not too bad, or you can have AK or you can have PRK to fine-tune it. So the challenge with post-refractive surgery, of course, is first of all getting the implant power correct in an eye that's been steepened artificially. So I've got that reading, and my calculation on myself, which I did on the ASCRS website, is within a half a diopter what Holliday recommends. So we're going to try to make me a -1, but we'll see how it turns out. So the other thing I wanted to have, because I'm pushing this, I wanted to have femtosecond laser surgery on myself. But we're not going to make any incisions, but I'm not going to have to pay for it because they're going to comp me on the Catalyst company. So I just want to have the Rexus done. Barry's pretty good at a Rexus, but he's not as good as an excimer as a femtosecond laser. So we're going to have my Rexus and a little softening, and he'll take the cataract out. We're going to do an aura too. That's the other thing we're going to do for fun. Barry doesn't trust the aura that much. I'm not sure about it, but we're going to get a reading just to keep Jack happy. And if the reading agrees with his axis and says I have like 1.5 diopters of astigmatism or more, we might put a toric lens in. And if it doesn't, we'll probably put in a spherical monofocal lens. So next year I'll be able to give you the follow-up on this saga of my refractive surgery experience in my own eyes. Thanks a lot for listening.